Well, hello there, Tenno, and welcome back to another little episode of Low Warframes. And today, as you can see on the screen, we are taking a look at the Falcor Glaive weapon with a special little mini bonus of its own. But first, please drop me a like, comment, and or sub, and I will be eternally grateful. So, why the Falcor coffee, you random barbarian, you may be asking? Well, we have my Discordians to thank, as they often talk about random things they're working on in various stages of their journeys in the game, and they happen to be talking about their Falcor funsies. And I, who clearly have FOMO, decided to delve back in to my glaive weapon. Now, the thing about Mama Barbarian here is that I don't do melee an awful lot, so I've kind of completely let it wash over me, and I have clearly been missing out. It's not to say I dislike meleeing, but I find killing things with my pew-pews and abilities just more efficient for me and my gameplay style, more satisfying. However, maybe I just never found the right fun time melee for my style of gaming, but well, now I have stumbled into a typical Warframe hole and I can't get out, and this is foreshadowing for more melee vids to come. The other thing, if you're new here or if you've watched some of my videos but haven't picked up on it, I don't know how you haven't, is that I tend not to be a min-max gamer. I hope it doesn't make you switch off, and it has, I know, drawn a lot of people to my channel. I don't always have the best builds or the best mod configs. I'm not always the most efficient gamer, but by golly goodness, I know how to have a good time in this game. And in that vein, I kind of want everybody else to play the game the way they want to. If you want to be a min-max gamer, go for it. Fill your boots. If you want to be the most efficient gamer you can be, go for it. But if you're just kind of like me and just you have fun and it's kind of accidental if you get good, then you know you're in a good place. I'm a gamer and gaming is all I crave. So as I've been jibber jabbering on, I've just been showing you the Codex weapons. There is a class of thrown melee weapons, and the glaives are part of that class. So its brethren, the Falcor's brethren, are weapons like the Surtra, the Glaive Prime, the Halakar Wraith. There we've got the Orvius, we've got the Xoris, we've got the Kestrel and the Pathicist, but some of them are more like thrown mace weapons, so they have slightly different names. So if you type a glaive in, not all of these weapons will pop up. The Halakar Wraith, I think you can only get that from Barrow when he's here, when it's up for offer. I mean, if you're interested in these weapons, I can do more videos of where to find them and, you know, modding them, because I also need to revisit them myself. Like I said, I've been lackadaisical there. So if you didn't know, glaives are multi-bladed or circular melee weapons that can be thrown like a boomerang of death. Heavy attacks thrown during the glaive's flight will cause it to explode in an area of effect. So it causes an AoE effect. I love this kind of melee weapon. I love AoE weapons anyway. Don't get me wrong, I can do headshots, I can aim, but sometimes you just want to kill or affect things with a lot of status in a very quick succession, and AoE does that beautifully. Glaives can be wielded in tandem with a single-handed secondary weapon, so you can do both at the same time if you want to. Holding the melee button throws the glaive, which can then bounce up to 3 times or travels a set duration before returning to the user. And by the way, the Falcor has an extra little added bonus, which we'll talk about in a moment, and that damages anyone standing in its path. And meleeing while the glaive is in mid-flight commands it to return to you. And just some further minutiae, the thrown glaive has a guaranteed impact. Thrown glaives are silent weapons, and heavy attacks or melee attacks while wielded in tandem with a secondary weapon while the glaive is in mid-flight produce an explosion and force the glaive to return. The explosion inflicts a guaranteed proc, so we're basically priming the enemies for death. And I'm here for it, I really am. And the thrown glaive that you might be most familiar with at this point in the game for you, maybe possibly, is the Xoris, because that is introduced to us by playing the Deadlock Protocol quest, where we are introduced to the Granum Void. And after that, in Corpus missions specifically, if you find the big old golden hands, you pay a tithe, one of those coins that you get, from killing the dude that pops up in Corpus missions. You take your Xoris and you kerpow the heck out of the enemies a certain amount and you get the tier reward. It turns out if you take Revenant, Meza or Octavia, you really don't really need the Xoris. Just saying. Anyway, I digress. That's a totally different video for a totally different day. In fact, I've already made one. Go and check it out. So where do we get the Falcor Blueprint? Well, it can be obtained from your friendly clan dojo, specifically from the Energy Lab if it has been researched, and you can purchase it for a mere 15,000 creditos or hollers, depending where you're at in the game, and then you build it in your foundry, and you're going to need those components that you can see on the screen. Nothing too special there, just get it built, claim it as you normally would. And the thing I like about glaives is how they interact slightly differently in your mission arsenal than other melee weapons. They kind of made me feel like a badass, I'm going to be honest. The best thing about glaives is that they do the little bouncy pinball thing off the enemies and eventually return to you, like a very well behaved, slightly murderous, status spreading space boomerang of death, as we previously mentioned. The Falcor, however, is more of a homing pigeon, if the pigeon was spreading murderous status effects and killing your mortal enemies for you. You know, one of those pigeons. And before we take a look at like mod configurations and testing it out in the simulacrum, just a reminder that the Falcor does have a camo skin available in Nightwave. Right now as I edit this, it might not be there by the time that you come to buy it, but it's available for 30 Nightwave creds, and you have to build it in your foundry under Appearance, I think. And it's just a nice little variation if you're taking it out on your eyeballs. And the other thing I really like about glaives is that if you head into attachments on the arsenal and add a Sugatra, if you happen to have any, it actually adds 3. There are 3 points for it to have them added on. So they dingle dangle around very satisfactorily. And if you have one of those little Tamagotchi ones from the 1999 content, they're so cute. I actually went for the Pyro or Pyra sparkly one in the end. But I love the animation, as you can see. This one is really elegant. It's like, oh, that's so satisfying. I almost left it on, but then I knew I would just be distracted by it in missions. So I ended up putting the one on the top right on. I know. Isn't it pretty, though? Now, I headed to the Simulacrum mid-Forma journey to see where I was at with it. I took my beloved Wisp because she speeds up meleeing action for me nicely, especially when I'm learning how to use a melee specifically. However, I didn't pop her abilities here, and I took off my companion because I just wanted to get a baseline. And I also wanted to show the status spreading of the Falcor. It did okay, and while we have a look at this baseline footage, allow me to share with you my realization that I started to have over the last year or two of playing Warframe, and I've been playing Warframe for quite a few years now. I'm a slow learner, what can I say? A lot of weapons and abilities can be used as primers, and up until recently, as I said, I didn't really fully understand the value of that. If something in my arsenal couldn't kill its stuff on its own, in its own right, I would sort of take a dislike to it and be reluctant to use it. I know, I'm a big old dum-dum. I know. Don't fear though, my beloved Discordians and their little chitty chats that they have slowly educated me, slowly but surely, of this idea that certain things can prime the enemies for death. So you don't necessarily have to kill stuff with that weapon, but the various status effects that it applies and spreads, it's then kerblam, you finish them off with something else that, you know, it's like yin and yang, a perfect balance to achieve in the end. Let's be honest, lots of murder. So this is my kind of final build for now. This is one of them. This is a hybrid of my Discordians build and my own work. I hovered over the Riven disposition because this has got a high Riven disposition. That just means that any Riven mod you get for the Falcor, the stats are going to do really well when you put them into the weapon, how they multiply upwards. Now I do have 3 bonuses and 1 negative, which basically means I get a multiplication percentage of 0.9375 for the bonuses and a minus 0.75 for the negative one. Having 2 bonuses and 1 negative would be the absolute optimum, but I didn't want to re-roll it again. just because I rolled it a few times and it was like, I feel like I'm hedging my bets here. And it's a very low critical weapon, so having a Riven mod with some critical chance or damage or whatever in there will definitely help with the critical side of it. But if you just want to make it a pure status weapon, so it's just spreading status effects and proccing those enemies for death for you, then go for it. You don't need a Riven, you don't have to have one, and as you saw previously, I was using it absolutely fine without a Riven, so they're not necessary. It's just if you get one, you can make the best of it. Now, there was another build by, I think he's called the Hairless Persian on Overframe, which I kind of used a little bit, but he didn't really explain his build, and it was a bit older. The other really popular Overframer is Ninjase. He had done a build, but again, they were very similar, so I just picked one and went for it, and I just thought I'll just use it and see what works and what doesn't. And I'm still going to tweak it probably after this video as well, but feel free to have a little mooch at these. Now, I may not be a massive melee lover, but that doesn't mean I didn't realise that there are melee improving Warframes to use, and the big old Mac Daddy is obviously Kullervo, got from Duviri. Not for me though, no. I did lots of trading, got some plat and bought him because you won't see me grinding anything on Duviri anytime soon. There's a video incoming about that, by the way. Anyway, that's a basic build, don't worry about it. I'm still working on my Kullervo. There's going to be a separate video for him as well. But as you can see, his passive boasts a plus 75% heavy attack efficiency and 100% heavy attack wind-up speed on all melee weapons, and his first ability, Wrathful Advance, they all have two options. This one, it teleports to the target, and his rage-filled focus temporarily increases his melee critical chance. There feels like there's more to it. I'm going to investigate, don't worry about it, but man, I had a lot of fun with Kullervo and the meleeing. Footage of that fun with Kullervo incoming. The other Warframe that came to my attention, thanks to Seawolf X UK in my Discord, was Zephyr, because I never really played Zephyr a huge amount, and obviously we all know there's a Valkyr rework coming, but her passive gains you a 150% critical hit chance with weapons while airborne. And if you didn't know this about Zephyr, you can build her mod configuration to the point where she basically floats around in the air for quite some time. She has very high gravity resistance, and with the right mods and the augment mods, you can just basically have her flapping around in the sky quite a lot, and that just adds 150% critical hit chance to all of your weapons. And the thrown melee glaives, you know, might come in useful from a distance. What say you? So as I start to wrap up this video, I just wanted to show you a bit of footage of Vault in the level 220 Sanctum Simulacrum with the Steel Path modifiers and everything else on, and then a bit of Kullervo, and then we're going to have a look at Wisp with her abilities in the other Simulacrum footage. And I guess what I really want to do is get you, the viewer, excited to go off and try new things that maybe you just haven't bothered looking into, much like myself. I've got this little frisson of excitement now when I switch on Warframe, because I'm like, this is a whole avenue of the game I haven't really bothered learning about, educating myself about, and I feel like I'm on the precipice of like an amazing discovery. And I do love a melee. I love the Nakanas. I love the staff weapons, the bladed staff weapons. I do have a Zor called Vanity that I break out quite a lot. I really like Kume's Amanata as well because of the extra effects. But as you can see, Vault was speeding up everything and adding electrical damage to everything. And Kullervo, oh my goodness. Let me just say, I can see now why people became mildly obsessed with him when he came out. Because that first ability where you saw the red crit numbers popping out, I mean, they're not the highest crit numbers you can get. I know it can get higher, don't you worry. But just teleporting to the enemy and then red critting the shizzle out of them and then lobbing the Falcor at them and seeing more red numbers coming up. And I know that we can get them higher with different melees, but I just wanted to show that the Falcor can be fun too if you want to go back and investigate it, or just, you know, talk about glaive or throwing weapons. I just feel like I've been missing out, and now it's added like a little extra avenue to my gaming experience. And I'm excited about it, and I wanted to share that excitement with you. And I also wanted to thank my Discordians for inspiring me, because they often do without realizing it. Or I'll say something in the chat and then they'll start talking about something and I'm like, oh, I've actually made a video on that recently. That's so weird. Anyway, we're now switching back to Wisp with her abilities. So this was The previous footage I showed you when we didn't have any companion or any abilities, this is the Falcor in action with Wisp and her abilities, and it's fine. Like, I'm trying not to use my Fulmin to muller everything and all of her abilities, but I mean, in conjunction with each other, it's fun as well. I like the animation of it pinging off and coming back to you like a faithful companion, the Falcor, as it goes around the room and bounces. And sometimes when you're moving and your Warframe catches it as they're in movement, it looks so badass. You just look like such a cool Warframe. I love it. And the fact that it spreads status effects, I know that we can get that higher. I know we can get that better. But I just couldn't help get excited about it and want to make a video about it. And also I did look into other melee type Warframes, but I'm not really educated enough about them to show you at the moment. And a lot of them had their own sort of pseudo exalted weapons or exalted weapons. Like I was looking at Garuda, I was looking at Varuna, I was looking at Baruch, Ash, and there was one other I was looking at, Valkyr, who's having a rework as well. So they seem to have their own melee weapons in their abilities, and I wasn't really sure how that would help your own melee, because when you pop their abilities, you tend to use their exalted or pseudo-exalted melee, and it's like, you know, Excalibur, for example, he's got his own pseudo-exalted melee weapon. So it's kind of like, how does that work out for the melee that you've brought along? So there's going to be Warframe builds that are just optimum for making that melee better. And like I said, we haven't even looked at like other arcanes, Archon shard builds for your Warframe, maybe companion boosting mods. I don't know yet, so we're going to look into it. But I just wanted to share with you my newfound excitement and passion for the Falcor and other glaive weapons. I'm going to be looking into them all now, because I was just happy slashing with them, and I was like, I don't really like them. They're a bit slow, the animations, when you're kind of literally meleeing with them, but when you lob them, I haven't even shown you like the explosion effect. I mean, that might have been it right there, but there's so much potential for them to do a ton of status damage and spreading effects everywhere. So my darlings, I just want to thank you for joining me in this little Falcor episode. We have a lot of update stuff coming up soon, so I'll be distracted with that, but I'm still going to be looking at the melee stuff, don't you worry about it. Oh yes. In the meantime, I want to thank my YouTube members for being awesome, for always supporting, and for everybody who joined the Discord recently and making it a really lovely community. We have a lot of active players over there. We have quiet periods, of course, where everyone's sleeping or busy with real life stuff, but there's usually someone around to help and answer your questions if you have any. And it doesn't have to be about Warframe. We talk about all sorts of gaming over there, and I can set up different channels for different chats anyway if it's missing. Anyway, my darlings, in the meantime, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I really do hope to see you again in the next one, no matter what it may be. But in the meantime, you take care now, and goodbye.